Hi, I'm Rainey Strauss, and welcome to Spinning Time into Form. This project started just down the road during a residency at the Lucid Art Foundation, and it followed on a series called the Old Growth Project, which was a series of large-scale paintings based on LiDAR scans I took while hiking up in the redwoods of Humboldt County. In that series, as those paintings emerged, the trees began to tell a story of state change, trees turning from plant to soil to land to air, a cycle that continues long after we're witnessing it. And that project left me questioning the notion of borders and our perception of them, and how that influences how we see and act in the world. Spinning Time into Form is a continuation of that inquiry, but it's sculptural as a way to embody space more the way living systems do. Oaking and laureling are my response to trees on the earthquake trail at the Point Reyes National Seashore by the Visitor Center. They're forms I've returned to again and again as collaborators over time. Some of the forms in the show began with LiDAR scans of trees, the same technology I used in the Old Growth Project, along with research into seed and fungal forms. I'm drawn to 3D scanning because it interrupts the way I usually see, my human habitual way. I use an app on my iPhone that tends to choke on the complexity of the forest. It can't handle the height of the trees or the dense plant life, and it produces these broken, noisy, distorted models. And I find them really compelling. They reveal the limits of our technological tools when faced with the intelligence of living systems. In the studio, I work with paper mache, cast paper, and compostable bioplastic filament. And I craft this by hand using a 3D pen, which is essentially a 3D printer, but with me rather than a computer model guiding it. The process is slow, intuitive, and responsive. As you move through the installation, you might notice an echo of forest ecology. Oaking and laureling speak to the overstory of the canopy. Other forms like entangling, and spiraling, hover in between ground and canopy, connecting air and soil. Others, like radicling, unbecoming, fruiting and emerging, rest closer to the ground, and explore growth, decay, and regeneration. I'm less interested in representing these zones literally than how energy moves through them. The titles in the show describe processes rather than fixed objects, doing rather than being. Around the time I began this project, I was reading Meeting the Universe Halfway by Karen Barad. And one idea that stayed with me is that matter is not a fixed thing, but something always in the process of becoming. And if matter is always doing something, then maybe forms don't need to appear solid or finished. They can remain open, and this idea deeply influenced the vocabulary of this work. For me, the forms in this installation don't represent trees or seeds so much as they function as a way to explore how matter organizes itself, how it spirals, unfolds, entangles, and transforms. It's sculpture as a probe. I'm drawn to the fragility and impermanence of these materials because they feel true to the systems I'm responding to. I wanted these pieces to feel less like separate objects and more like something you move with. The sound you're hearing is a segment of a dawn chorus recorded just before sunrise at the Point Reyes National Seashore by sound artist Mark Lippman. It's part of a larger project made in collaboration with the Point Reyes National Seashore Association. It's an effort to map the park's soundscapes as an educational tool and to make the park more accessible to people with mobility issues. For me, the sound stitches the installation together. It holds these forms within a living field. Thanks so much for spending time with the work.
I'm Kelly Burke, and I would like to walk you through a show currently showing at Gallery Route 1 called Forces of Nature. This is a show that was curated by myself and 2025-26 Gallery Route 1 fellow Megan Broughton. And the show encompasses the work of 5 Bay Area printmakers, all of whom have as their themes forces of nature, all of whom are each of themselves forces of nature. But you'll see as we walk through this show that each of them work with the natural world, interpreting the natural world by various and sundry printmaking processes. We wanted to bring this show to the gallery specifically to let people see a wild diversity of printmaking. And it has great meaning in this gallery particularly because West Marin is full of artists of all disciplines and most certainly full of fantastic printmakers, one of whom is actually in this show. So let's get to it. These banners are on Habotai silk, and the maker is Nora Paulwels. Nora is a Belgian-born artist who has been residing in America for quite a long time, Bay Area. This process involves acrylic plates with carborundum, dry point, and some copper plate processing, all of which are processed through, printed through multiple layers on this silk fabric. They are beautiful as banners. There's a great deal of gorgeous movement in them. They also illuminate beautifully from the back. Next, we see the work of Margaret E. Murray. Margaret started her life on the East Coast, has spent most of her adult life in San Francisco, and this work is Glacial Melt 6. This is a copper plate etching in 3 different versions, what we would call a variable edition. And each print is made from the same plate with slightly different processes, chincolet, which is a process wherein a different color paper is imprinted on the base paper. It's one of a series of tin etchings inspired by Margaret's travel among the glaciers and mountains of Svalbard, which is an archipelago that sits between the northernmost tip of Norway and the North Pole. The series documents the grandeur of mountains, icebergs, and glaciers, immense, timeless forms now shifting under the pressure of cascading man-made climate change. Next, we have a local maker, Mike O'Shea. Mike actually attained his MFA in printmaking in the San Francisco Art Institute and practices painting, printmaking, and photography. He's shown in the Sequoias, the Dance Palace, and Tom Biagini Gallery in Inverness. These prints are amazing to me because all of them have been incredibly distressed. The plates have been distressed by a fire that happened in Mike's studio here in Inverness. The plates are actually destroyed and are unable to be used now. Well, they were made too soft to use now. But you can see that the natural world really intrudes on these. These are all a photogravure printing process, which is a photographic-based process, but it allows you at the same time to get the photographic granularity, but a real dreaminess in the way that Mike prints these plates. The last one that you're looking at now is actually from a print that Mike did on a very foggy morning, really rendering it quite minimal, and he printed it on a paper that was essentially an echo print, a print of leaves. All a printing process, and you can see it renders very, very different images. Next we have Quinn Keck. These 2 pieces are called Acknowledge the Shadows 1 and 2, and they are literally built from images that Quinn made from shadows they encountered in their new home of San Francisco as they were settling in. The shadow becomes a metaphor for, something that's very shifting, the shadow in and of itself, something that cannot be commodified, something that is beyond market forces, but something that is always ever present. They did a ghost print. These images are layered and layered ghost prints, meaning not the first image off a plate, but second and third and fourth images off a plate, rendering this beautiful kind of faint, ghostly quality in multiple layers of printmaking. And lastly, we have the work of Leah Koransky. These two works are both made on Gompi, very different. This work that you're currently seeing is actually a rubbing. Both of these works were initiated during Leah's residency at Headlands Center for the Arts in the Headlands of Marin County. Gompi is a very fragile paper, but Leah was able to actually do this rubbing on a rough surface of rock. Her focus in that residency was really looking at deep time through the chert that is surrounding the headlands and part of the headlands. And you can see that in this monumental work that is actually, mind-blowingly, a screen print. So I want to just draw attention here. This is a perfect example of the power of residencies. Leah did this great work looking at the geologic formations and really contemplating geologic time, deep time, and making these explorations using, the rock formation she encountered in the headlands. So this work was initiated during the residence she had at Headlands, and then during her residency at Kala Art Institute, she was able to actually complete the work through a screen printing process, which is remarkable considering that it is on Gompi paper, which if you touched it, you would see how actually fine, though astonishingly strong, it is. Residencies, the one we have here at Gallery Route 1, the residencies available at Kala Art Institute in Berkeley, the residencies available at Headlands. These are all funded by, as PBS would say, viewers like you. Art organizations like ours, like Kala, like Headlands, all depend not just on big grants, which are fewer and fewer, but on the generosity of art-forward donors. So it's amazing to me that we have opportunities that can give us these beautiful explorations as illustrated in this particular show. Thank you so much. Do come by. The show is up until April 12th, and we'd love to see you in the gallery.